Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing well. It's been a long time since we chatted, and I hope you guys have all been well. Basically, I'm gonna do a different type of stream today. I've never really done this, and oh no, my camera's like unfocusing. Let's see if it have still stays the same. Otherwise, I'll try to fix it throughout. But it's gonna be a different kind of stream. Like I thought that it would be nice to have a stream where I just talk one to one, right? Or at least one to you guys throughout the stream so that I can have a chance to kind of share with you guys the reason behind the absence that I've been having in the at least in terms of live streams. I've obviously still, for people who are in the community, know I've still been very involved, but at least for live streams, like how come we broke the streak, right? Like we're all about keeping up habits here in the community, want to keep consistent. So how come we had an opportunity to keep our streak, but we broke it, right? I kind of want to talk a bit about that. And more importantly, I think the learning lessons of breaking a streak and the learning lessons of going through this journey that I'm about to share with you guys today, just really opening up a bit about, the some of the personal things that have happened to me recently so that, I can any learning lessons that I can share with you guys, I'm always happy to. And maybe the way that I've kind of tackled these challenges and made a change in my life might be interesting for you as well. So I'll kind of start off with that, and I'm noticing that my quality of the camera is like zooming in and out. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to just change the camera focus, and then hopefully we won't have any more problems. Let's see. And of course, at this time, my camera turns off. Fantastic. So I think this is now focusing manually, I hope. No, it is not. And let's go ahead and this. This is better. No, it is not. Give me 1 quick second. I'm gonna go fix that up. There we go. This should be manual focus. Perfect. I should stay in frame, and it's going to be a bit blurrier than I would usually want it. Ooh. Yeah, I think that's good enough. As long as I stay clear consistently, I think I'm happy with that. But yes, anyways, just to share with you guys, the kind of journey that I've been on throughout. And I know if you guys clicked on this, seeing the thumbnail, you're like, oh my gosh, that looks scary. But hopefully you don't feel that way after I share with you the whole story. There are happy endings, well, at least not terrible endings. And I think there's a lot of learning lessons about stoicism that I can share here as well. So basically, I think around July, I got COVID, right? And yeah, everyone gets COVID. I think that's something that we all accept today now. We're like, oh, okay, it's COVID. We got it, right? Unfortunately, my strain was a bit more intense than usual. I was out for 2 weeks. It was completely horrible for me. I definitely had, bad symptoms throughout the experience, but ultimately I pulled through, right? I had the help and support of a lot of friends and family, and they were able to support me by giving me the medicines I needed, whether it be Western medicine or to be Eastern medicine as well. So I really, really appreciate that. But throughout that process, actually, even at that moment, I was already starting to reflect, right? Like, because a lot of people in the Family Without Borders house, if you guys not familiar, we have a co-living house that are centered around the ideals of co-3, where we want to help each other level up and, do great things together, right? Collaborate and co-create, but within the physical confines of a space, right? So instead of the virtual kind of sharing and learning we're doing right now, we have a physical space to do that as well. And we have a house in Singapore and a few houses around the world coming up soon. But a lot of, like, within the month where I got sick with COVID, a lot of my friends started getting hurt as well, right? One of my friends broke his wrist, landed in the hospital. Their friend, just like various like health conditions were popping up. And when I got COVID, right, and when people around me got COVID as well, it became a little more real to me that we can get sick, right? Life isn't we aren't infallible, right? We can get ill. And throughout the process of while I was laying in bed and unable to move and wheezing and coughing, I used a lot of that time to kind of reflect on how I wanted to live life from there on, right? What's going to be important to me? What are things that I thought used to be important, but maybe not so important anymore, right? And what specifically I could do to make life better. That was a really big thing on my mind. So once I came out of my illness, I was I felt like I wanted to get back right into it, get stuff going and make a change. And one of the most important things for me was like, how can I create more opportunities for collaboration within the community? How can I really bring out this idea of fighting, big, scary world bosses, things that people cannot hope to fight themselves, right? Big dragons out there. How can we get band together, right? And make sure that we are well equipped with the right equipment to go face these dragons together, right? And ideally have a good time doing it. That's really the whole idea behind our community, but really fleshing out exactly how that looks like and what we can do to bring more people into the picture. But lo and behold, on the day that I thought I was clear, I went to the doctors and they're like, "You're great, all good." And they're like, "Oh, by the way, since you're here, you're in Singapore now, why don't you take this hepatitis vaccine?" Because I didn't need it back when I was in Canada. We didn't have, at least I don't think we needed it. It never was in my vaccine panel. But I took that vaccine, and again, there's no correlation, I think, with the rest of the things that happened. But basically, just did a checkup. I was clear on COVID. They deemed me healthy enough to get a vaccine, and that's what I'm just trying to share. Anyways, when I got home, I took a shower, and in the shower, I slipped. Did a slip, fell in the shower, landed on my head, or so I thought, but immediately I banged my head against the side of the bathtub, and I was out. Thankfully, I had my partner there with me, and she was able to support me throughout time. Again, I was able to have coherency, like I didn't have double vision or anything. I was able to communicate enough to kind of give instructions on how to care for me. And ultimately, aside from like a very big ringing and throbbing in my head, like, I was good. Aside from that, like, I was like, this is fine. I hit my head all the time as a kid. What's the worst that could happen? And even the next day, I even went to work, right? I went to work, I did my meetings, and I thought I was fine, aside from just, some pain in my head here and there. So lo and behold, when the next day rolled around, I couldn't breathe. Like, I just straight up couldn't breathe. And my pain level was on like a 8 out of 10. And mind you, like, after COVID happened, like, I started having like breathing issues anyways. Like, I was low on breath all the time. Walking up the stairs took a lot of wind out of me. I kind of thought that, I read up that COVID had these symptoms, and I was understanding of those. But when I woke up with just like inability to breathe and just complete pain within my chest, I knew there was a problem and I needed to get help, right? And actually, I resisted going to the hospital for a while too, because I was worried about the wait lines. But ultimately, through the convincing of my friends and family, I went to the hospital where I got a barrage of tests done. And I really do appreciate the Singapore health system. If they know it's an urgent case, they really take care of you immediately. So I had, within, I think, just 30 minutes, had a doctor look at me and start the testing process and everything like that. So super awesome. Really appreciate that. Thankfully, they didn't notice any fractures in my chest, because they thought that maybe when I fell on my back, like my back got some kind of fracture and my chest got fractured. Maybe there was something sticking in there. Thankfully, none of that. So no broken bones or anything like that. And they thought maybe it was a muscle spasm, right? My back kind of when I hit the impact of it kind of rippled through my body and then caused some of the impact I felt on my chest. Maybe, right? That's what they're sharing. But in that process, we ended up also doing a ECG, right? Basically just to check to see if there's any else going on with my heart, right? Is my heart beating well? Is that something that, uh, that could be the problem, right? And at that time, they realized that my heart has some arrhythmatic beating, like it doesn't beat to the right rhythm, or at least some nodes don't have as strong as it should be, right? So I'm like, wonderful. I come in for one issue and another issue comes up. Fantastic. Let's just solve this one first. So in that hospital visit, they gave me just a bunch of drugs, IVs and painkillers, and just said, hey, sleep it off. If it's fine, then it will be fine. For now, let's just make sure you're not in pain, and then let's clear up your airway. You can breathe properly. I did x-rays and all that, and they're like, you know what? When the results come back, we'll let you know. I'm like, fantastic. At least I have the immediate pain resolved, right? And again, I went home and I'm like, haha, I've had like 3 friends that have been to the hospital like 3 consecutive times in like a 1 month spans. This probably is a lesson for all of us. We're all getting older, right? We should probably care a bit more about our health and, where we should go from here. Again, just trying to reflect on that situation and figure out what does this mean for me? How do I change my life, right? Now, the kicker really didn't happen until I then used my ECG results and went to a cardiologist, right? And when I went to a cardiologist, man, it was so scary. Like, so what happened was when I went to the cardiologist, I ended up sharing with him that, yes, my ECG is telling me something, but actually throughout my life, I've had this thing where if I push myself during exercise a bit too much, I feel like passing out. I feel like I get black spots in the front of my eyes. I feel like I, need to immediately lay down, get a lot of water, breathe properly. And, on one hand, I can believe that to be just normal. As someone who may not be as fit as I want to be, if I push myself to an absolute limit, of course, I will break down. That I thought that to be somewhat normal. I didn't think that would be something that would be particularly out of the ordinary. But, and mind you, like I did a lot of sports when I was younger, so all my coaches were like, suck it up, you're slacking, get to work, Conrad. So I'm like, fantastic, that's what I needed to do. But since I was at the cardiologist anyways, and since they're saying my heart beats weird and they're talking about all these things that could happen because of that, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I do have something that resembles some sort of like, disease or whatever, like in abnormality with my condition, that maybe that's interesting for them to observe, right? And from that moment on, like I was subject to like a barrage of tests. Like they're like, oh, you need to do a CT scan of the heart, an ultrasound of the heart, more ECGs, like just tons and tons of testing. And they're like, oh, maybe your heart wall is thicker than it should be, or maybe so and so, like just a lot of conjecture, right? And a lot of hypotheses about what it could be. And again, mind you, I don't think it was all to scare me or anything, but just to kind of help me realize the severity of what it could be. Is like, hey, you might just randomly drop dead. So obviously I'm gonna use this opportunity to like, oh wow, like if every moment could be my last, like really, am I living every single moment to the fullest extent, right? So at that moment I was like, okay, or even around that moment, right, the moment I got my ECG results, I was like, okay, things need to change. I need to start monitoring my health. Like I'm so like involved in systematizing so many parts of my life and monitoring so many different parts of my life, like my goals, my key results, my projects, my tasks, like my meals I do track, right, my reflections, my happiness, everything. But why am I not tracking like stuff like my heart rate, right? Why am I not tracking stuff like my exercise routines? Again, I am ish, but I'm not really tracking like how much healthier I'm getting. I'm just tracking how much more stronger I'm getting, which is a little bit different, right? I'm trying to understand now. It's more, am I on the right track to living additional years of my life, right? So at that moment, like I was like, wow, okay, things need to change. Because I had some break, by the way, between that visit and then my next test, right? There's a lot of tests I need to do. I wasn't able to do it in one sitting, and I wanted a second opinion. Like it was important for me, like, hey, I should get second opinions. By the way, at that time, I was still having headaches from my concussion. So I definitely was not having a good time. I couldn't focus on much, and just doing probably my full-time work was all I could do. And yeah, and interacting with the community was just on those weekly Sunday council meetings, which I recommend everyone to join if you guys are, needing any kind of support in your life. Like I loved having so many meaningful conversations on a consistent basis with so many people that are just like-minded and eager to, learn and explore and just share lessons, right, that we've all kind of experienced in our lives. Anyhow, so I started doing a lot of tracking, and I really recommend these things to you guys if you guys are interested in tracking. But basically, the first thing I started to track was my heart rate. So I got a watch. This is the Garmin 955. It's typically a runner's watch. I obviously don't run that much, but I was like, okay, you know what? I should probably get a watch to at least measure my heart rate so that I can know when I'm in the appropriate limits. And it's been wonderful. Like every time I go out running, it tells me exactly what range I should run into, and if I have a race I'm preparing for, which I am, I'm going to run a partial marathon, only 5 kilometers, nothing too crazy, in December. So knowing that that's my goal, what are my daily practices to get there, right? So I love it. I love the notion of being able to follow a plan, right, that obviously has some sort of scientific backing. I want to understand obviously why they're suggesting me to run, a 8:30 kilometer versus a 10-minute 30 kilometer. Like I also like to understand that too, but just knowing that there's this like system behind how I could approach my exercising has been amazing to me, and I love it. Absolutely do. And also, of course, keeping within acceptable limits of my heart rate is a bonus. And if I have any issues, and it'll alert my loved ones. So that's also fantastic as well. So that's one thing I did. Plus on top of like, booking and marathon and all that, like, those are important things for me, right? Other things is I went to a dietitian. I was like, okay, well, that's a handle on exercise, and I want to be more fit. I want to train more. I want to make sure that my heart rate is lower, whenever I can. And that only comes with training, but what else can I do? What can I eat, right? So I went to a dietitian, and thankfully they said that, I generally eat very healthy. I don't eat much junk food at all, and pop I avoid, and sugary foods I avoid as well. So that, yeah, you're great. Just, stick to eating more breakfast, eating more grains if you can, and more fruits, I think was what they said, and water. So another thing is I have pledged to drink like a lot of water every single day. This is a 2-liter bottle, I believe. Yeah, so 2-liter bottle just every single day, 2 liters, making sure that that's getting into my system, and it should be for you guys as well. Remember, drink water. So this is my reminder for you guys. All right, so I tackled it from a exercise perspective. I tackled that from a kind of a meal perspective, right? And then by the time I did those kind of steps, right, I had then saw a second opinion doctor, another cardiologist, and this time they wanted to see what exactly happened when I exercised, like what is the exact thing. So they put me on a treadmill and they pushed me. They're like, okay, here, Conrad, run here and push yourself to the limit and see what happens. And it was so cute, actually, because there's these 2 nurses plus this doctor like watching me, and then like the nurses bless her, she was like a bit smaller than me, and she's like, oh no, if you fall, please fall this way, fall into the bed, and don't fall on me, you're gonna crush me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll make sure, I'll let you guys all know. Like, so I was giving them like constant updates throughout the run, on the treadmill. I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. And when I was not feeling so good, I was like communicating it very effectively and very immediately. So I made sure to do that. But basically, what happened was that when I started running, like for most of the test, I was actually in a very healthy limit. They were communicating to me that, oh, Conrad, you're actually quite healthy, right? You're doing well. We haven't seen any issues so far. I'm like, fantastic. Let's keep to that, right? I like that idea that I'm doing well. But the moment that I went over like 175 heart rate, that's when everything went bad. Like everything immediately, my blood pressure immediately plummeted. And then basically I felt I felt faint, right? I saw black spots. I told them about it, and then they immediately put me down on the bed, and I started just catching my breath. So, and I think the funny thing is like the words you never want to hear a doctor say is I've never seen that before. And I'm like, wow. And he repeated it 4 times. He's like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen this before. I've never seen it drop so much before. I've never done this before. Like it was like so surreal. It was so funny. If I wasn't obviously anxious, but it was just really interesting. It was like, I'm pretty sure those are the things you don't want to hear a doctor say. But nonetheless, having that known to me was really like liberating actually, because when I was younger and doing exercise and all these coaches are telling me that, hey, I just need to suck it up, I'm slacking off obviously when I'm laying down on the bench and not running with them, it made it feel like it was something that I could overcome through sheer willpower, right? I'll just push harder, just do this, right? And one thing that I've always had a struggle with in terms of understanding this concept while I was growing up was like, thankfully I've been in healthy condition for most of my life. Like I've had some, medical hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I never felt like my health limited me to do anything. And I think that's been a really like huge part of my success, where I believe that I can do anything I put my mind to because my body isn't going to be my limiting factor. So everything for me has always been about like, is my willpower enough and my motivation obviously, and do I have enough mental strength to do the thing I need to do? So a lot of my training in regards to making life better has been really revolving like, how do I make my mind better? How do I think better? And how do I, convert my thoughts into action? That's really been the gist of, I think, my my solutioning, I guess, to figuring out problem solving. But for the first time, like I realized that I might truly have like a physical, not to say impairment because I don't want to say it like that, but like a physical issue that might limit the things I need to do. But once I realized that, hey, my set limit is I don't go above 175 for my heart rate, I keep it within 165 and below, and that's enough for anaerobic exercise anyways, right? So I was like, that's great. Like I know what my limits are, I know where I can go, and I know what I can do. And I think the learning lesson from this specific moment is that, at least for me, if I can know the limits of the system that I'm working within, that actually helps me a lot to determine like where I can go from there. It gives me a lot of freedom actually, because I think it's the unknown that really scares most people from being able to do what they want to do. And I think that there's a lot of benefit that you can have if you simply define out what are the worst case scenarios and what are the best case scenarios, and figure out where you can go in between. Because for me, like my first question to my doctor, I was like, great, now that I have this, right, I pass out at 175 heart rate, fantastic, let's assume this is going to be true, let's assume it's going to be something that I'll have to deal with. What are, first of all, the worst case scenarios of having this issue, and then additionally, like what are the things that we could potentially do to fix this issue? So the first thing he said is, okay, well, there's no fix for this. I'm like, fantastic, I know there's no fix, so I'm gonna live with this. So how do I live with this? What's next, right? And they're like, okay, well, make sure you're exercising well, right? Make sure that you are in a state where your heart rate doesn't just skyrocket every time you do any little bit of exercise. I'm like, fantastic, that's something I can do, and something I have already started doing through running, right? And then like, what else can I do? Well, maybe come back, get some diagnostics, figure out what else could happen here, right? Like, so they said that I can't eat anything that might raise my heart rate. So any like kind of amphetamines, not that I do drugs anyways, but if I ever do pass any opportunity to do drugs, probably don't do anything that will raise my heart rate. Also drinking, right? Again, I don't drink that much anyways, if at all. I'm a very social drinker. It's only when I have a social event I might drink a glass of wine or maybe like a glass of beer. They're like, yeah, just limit that consumption because it'll raise your heart rate. I'm like, fantastic. By the way, that also helped me realize something very interesting as well, is that in the past, like, so I've always like felt like I don't get drunk when I drink, but I do feel like I need want to sleep and I get like lightheaded. And what I realized from this experience was that it was because my heart rate went up, and then the same symptoms of what happened on the treadmill happens, where I kind of see black and then I need to lay down, and that's exactly the same experience I have when I drink a little bit more than, you know, a few glasses. So very, very interesting, but again, all fairly coherent, right? So again, a lot of things were clicking for me, and I just felt it so fascinating and so powerful to know that all these things that I had been just living with my whole life had explanations, and more than explanations is that I have ways to protect myself from, let's say, randomly passing out and dying in the middle of nowhere, right? So there's been a lot of like learning lessons that help me realize, like, you know, clarity is so important. It's actually underrated, and a lot of things that we end up living with, we don't have to live with. It's what I realized. Like, I mean, sorry, was it? A lot of things that we that happen to us, right? That we maybe don't spend time to dig deeper into the whys, end up giving us a lot of anxiety. Whereas once we know the why and we know that this is the way it is, perhaps even we can have a lot of opportunity to work around it. So, you've known about my tracking now, right? I've done tracking. You've known about my clarity, my understanding what I need to do. You know about the action steps I was going to take for exercising, eating better, sleeping better, most definitely. And then the next thing was like more mortality, right? I was thinking about my mortality a lot these few weeks and 2 months, right? And I was like, typically I live my life like it's my last day. I try to, right? Every interaction I take or I make, I try to make it sure that it's, even if it's the last interaction I have with that person, whether because I unfortunately pass away or they unfortunately pass away, or for whatever reason we don't see each other, I want to make sure it's a positive experience, right? And I want to make sure every day I'm living without regrets. That's been the same throughout, and I don't think that's changed. But one thing that I've noticed is that I'm starting to consider the next stages of life a lot more seriously, right? Like right now, I can kind of categorize this stage of life as like, oh, this is my stage where I'm building my career up. I'm working on, you know, career. I'm obviously near the latter end of like building up the career, you know, having an established career and kind of extending that. But the next step is most definitely, you know, marriage and children, right? And obviously a lot of people have already been married and have children when they're my age, and that's fine for them, right? But I was just thinking, like, in terms of a spectrum, like, what stage of life am I feeling ready for next, right? And what specifically might I do to be prepared for that? So something very interesting is, you know, I like to make a lot of rational decisions, which by the way may not be fully rational because our brain likes to invent things up, right, as rationalizations for behavior. But in my mind, I was like, okay, well, my partner and I have already discussed that we would most likely get married and have kids within 5 years time, right? Kids definitely after 5 years. So in that process, what can I do to be more effectively equipped to, you know, take care of a child, right? To be there for them and to be the best parent I can be, right? Because ultimately, I want to be a parent that can help my child succeed in whatever they want to succeed and give them the mental models and the tools to be their best self, similar to what we're doing here in the community, right? Again, I think all of this is a lot very intertwined. But for me, like, I realized that one aspect is also the emotional end, right? How can I be there with my child when a lot of my life revolves around trying to seek understanding, right? To be understood and to understand the other person when I'm communicating with them. For me, it's very important for there to be a mutual understanding so that we can work on higher order problems. If we just spend all our time trying to help ourselves get on the same page, we're missing the opportunity for us to come together and tackle bigger problems out there. So for me, like, I I felt it very pertinent to put myself in situations where I am with people perhaps, or even animals, right? And maybe this is where you can see where I'm leading up to, that may not understand my language and may not understand me at face value, and see how we can, you know, well, I have a few hypotheses. One is like how quickly we can get to an understanding, and then we can do value added activities from there. Or if we don't have an understanding to begin with, but still can have some kind of value added, kind of meaningful engagements, right? Because I think a lot of what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to bring together people that already have, are already on the same page about a lot of things in terms of mindsets and mentalities, and simply working on top of that. And I think the work that I'm going to be doing from here on out is going to be very, very relevant to helping everyone understand each other and building a better world, honestly, right? Because the first step of collaboration is really understanding. And if I can figure out the way to, get to understanding quickly and effectively, without much headache, right? Because I think when people get misunderstood, a lot of frustrations can occur. So if we can get there as soon as we can, right, and in a way that is respectful and befitting and effective, I think that's something that is very valuable for anybody that could potentially find themselves working with other people. And of course, most of us will, right? Let alone raising a child, which is something much more involved. So ultimately, I thought about, I've always wanted pets my whole life, and when I did eventually, move out of home when I was going to university, the first thing I did was get a cat, right? And I got a cat because I actually really loved dogs, but because I was a student, I was living in this tiny little dorm room. I knew there's no way that I could have a dog. First of all, the dorm was not pet friendly. Hide a dog, right? And also didn't have time to walk a dog every single day. So I got a cat instead, and thankfully the cats I did get were very dog-like, very cute. I was able to interact with them like I would a dog, and they wait for me at the door. They, do tricks with me, and we're able to kind of have a lot of fun. We do walks as well. But when I moved from Canada over to Singapore, I couldn't bring my cats over because it was going to be very traumatic for them. And I didn't know I was going to be in Singapore for so long anyways. I thought it was going to be a short stint and then move on, set up an office and go to the next region that we'd unlock. But seemingly, it seems like, more and more Singapore has become the place for me, at least for the way that my company, right, my full-time job has been kind of progressing. So knowing that this place is going to be my a very long-term home for me, and knowing that I still very much appreciate the companionship that I might get from an animal, right? And knowing that I also need to build up the patience and the methods of kind of working with an animal that may not understand you fully. Like I remember when I had my cats, like I was a very, very patient father, I guess you can say, person. I don't know. Like I felt like I was a lot more patient than I might be now, where then I would be very, very, understanding that, hey, it's just a cat, it doesn't understand me, right? It does understand food, it does understand some certain commands, but I can't realistically expect it to understand everything that I might be trying to communicate with it, right? And that's fine, and accepting that, right? So I thought that having a dog would be very helpful for me to train up to having my first child, right? In X amount of years. And also as the dog grows up, then there'll be opportunity for the dog to kind of also help raise the child in a way, right? I always thought it was amazing where some children grew up with a family cat or family dog, and I feel like you get a lot more empathetic, you get a lot more loving and caring if you have an animal as your companion, especially when you're just an only child at the beginning, right? Before the second and third, whatever comes along. So with all those things in mind, I ended up getting Haku, which is this little beautiful boy right here. He is a 4-month-old Samoyed, and just super, super energetic, cute, and been a really big help for me waking up early in the morning, and also, of course, then making me sleep early and making sure that I go and walk every day, right? I go and run every day. I make sure I go and, do exercise, because I think this is maybe one of the other learning lessons I want to share with you, is that in this process, often when you do something for other people, you end up being able to do it for yourself as well. And I know this to be like, it's a bit of human nature, honestly speaking, right? And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish we took care of ourselves the same way that we would take care of others. But at least for me, like, I found it very helpful to be taking care of him and also end up being able to take care of myself. I thought that would be a very powerful thing. And yeah, like, that just made me really happy to know that I had the opportunity to interact with such an amazing animal, and having him improve my life, right? Make me better, and hopefully I make him better as well by, improving his quality of life and making sure he's loved and cared for and all that. But yeah, like, I think that's a bit of the personal catch up, right? Where, again, I've never done this before, like, just speak so openly into a mic and share it with the world. I hope that there are some learning lessons here for you guys, if not at least some some updates and something for you to know about me, at least for you to understand the absence that I've been taking. I'm so sorry for that. I really wanted to make it for beginning of year to have the system updates released. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it'll be released this weekend, but next weekend I will have a lot of things to share. There's just so many things. Like, I do want to share with you guys some really cool stuff that I want to give you guys. So basically, one really cool thing that we've gotten handled is we have our help center now, right? But our help center basically has a lot of different articles, which I'm still building up, right? That are going to help you understand how to use your system to the fullest potential. I've always felt like our systems, while they're sufficiently complex to handle all the things that someone might need to do to manage your life, which is not an easy thing, by the way, it's not very easy to find all the resources you might need to execute on that. So I just thought it'd be important to kind of share all the different articles that are helping us communicate to you how to use every system, with all the properties that we use, the type of property, the purpose of this property, the templates we're using, it's the views we're using, and just anything that might help you understand how the system works and how you might work it out to fit for you. And the beauty of it is that at the bottom of every single page, you can click on the Notion link and you can actually go and edit these or comment on these to give us feedback on what you need that could help you improve your understanding of the system. On top of that, maybe anything that you've learned that you want to share with us as well. That's also very, very awesome and very welcome. So we have a whole backend now that kind of just breaks down all the different things that we're currently trying to share about and we're still building up. And throughout this process of working on this, I've actually been able to improve the system multiple folds. And I'm really excited to share them with you soon, and we're still working on it, so we'll need some time. And as of course you now know, I've been completely out of it, so just really trying to get back into the thick of things and deliver the value I want to deliver for the community that we have here, the wonderful people we have here that are so excited to learn and grow together. We have over 100 videos that I've kind of created to walk you through the system and help you understand exactly how the system can work for you. And really the main core concept of here is that I hope that we're giving these resources in a way where everyone has the ability to deconstruct, recreate, and extend these components as they wish, so that if you are in a position where you cannot kind of subscribe to our and support the community, through any financial means or through, I guess, even supporting community through time and effort, at least you know that we're giving out everything open source so that you can learn for yourself and build it for yourself if you so choose, right? With the videos and with these documentation, we really believe that anybody would be able to build a system if they spend enough time on it. So there's that, right? That's one way that I hope to help more of the community, even people that may not be residing in the US or Canada or, other, more wealthy nations that have a standard of living that allows people to invest in their personal well-being. I want to give opportunities to people who, even don't have the opportunity to invest, whether because of financial or any kind of resource restriction. How can you learn? How can you improve yourself? How can you get the tools to improve yourself day by day? I think that's very, very important. Aside from that, I have these really cool updates for the Make for Fun app. When I was, out and out for the count, the only thing that really made me happy was seeing everyone level up on the Make for Fun app. I thought that was amazing, and also having a chance to kind of improve it in a meaningful way that made me really happy. So this is just my testing environment. I just wanted to show you guys what I've been working on. I've been working on this manage screen where I can actually manage all the different habits that we're kind of working on. You can drag them around, so that's really awesome. And we can also add new quests to here. And it looks simple from here, but actually this took so much time to build and so much learning actually. I learned a lot about coding and how to build features like this. So just really happy about that process. I won't ever do it again, thank God. But just making this like a process where now you have more routines that you can work with. You can drag them around, you can add new daily quests, and in a very, very near future you'll have analytics to see exactly how you're performing through all your different daily quests and how you might want to do better next time. So just really amazing things that I've been able to work on thanks to the support and love from the community. I really can't appreciate you guys enough for all your support so far. There's just so many things that we're working on, from making the Make Work Fun more available and more feature friendly for everyone that may want to gamify their lives, right, with any productivity systems that they're using. Creating shared houses, right, as I mentioned, so familywithoutborders.com. So creating shared houses for everyone to live with and learn with amazing people around the world. This is another really amazing thing we're working on. Having the opportunity to share amazing systems with you and system updates. So we have system updates you can find at toolbox.cox3.com/updates, right? So that's where you can see all our different updates coming up, and I'm telling you, there's so many coming up. These are just like this one of the small stuff that's coming up. There's even more being developed, right? The digital garden, we have this digital garden space where we're going to be working on a lot of different articles and notes and just sharing everything that we've been learning so far as a community, sharing with you so you can add to your understanding of what that looks like, and just building on top of that and making more amazing resources for us to learn from. Right, and also we have a new updated interface which we're announcing soon, that is going to allow everyone to kind of support the projects specifically that they want to see next, that are most meaningful or relevant to them, because we want to make sure that if you want to level up, we're there with you, and whatever you want to build and for your life, for the betterment of your life, your family, or your community, I want to make sure that's something that's afforded for you as well. And I think I'm going to end off this with sharing that I've learned. I've been watching a lot of master classes recently, one by Richard Branson specifically, and he talks about how you can take care of the world. What is one of the ways that you can essentially impact others and make the world a better place? So he says, first you draw a circle around you. Right? How do you make you better, right? How do you do things for you? How do you make sure that you're living the best life you could be, and you're in the best mental condition, physical condition, whatever it might be? Then you draw a circle around your family, right? How can you make sure your family members are taken care of? How do you make sure your family is healthy, happy, and thriving in their whatever situation that they're in? Then you draw another bigger circle and you say, hey, now that I have, myself and then my family taken care of, how am I going to then improve the situation for my community, my neighbors, right? My immediate neighbors beside me, the people at school, the people at work. How do I make sure that these people are taken care of and they are, living their best life? And then from then on, you draw another line, another circle, right? And say, hey, how can I help my country, right? Or I guess if your state, right? How do you help my state, my country? How do I make an impact on people that are within my national borders? And then you draw another circle after that once you figure that out. And then you say, hey, how can I help the whole world? So ultimately, what I want to share with you guys, this journey that I've been brought on is obviously I'm here to help the wider community. I love working on a global nature. I'm so happy that Coextra has touched so many people around the world. You know, and it really was only possible because I've been able to, you know, figure myself out, be the best person I can be, use that learnings to then help my family, use those learnings to help my neighbors, use those learnings to help my country, and then from there on the world altogether. But it's always a constant process, and there's never perfection, right? I don't have to be perfect at myself before I can help others, but if I can get to a reasonable standard where I know that I am sufficient and I am, you know, a good version of myself, and obviously keep still improving, but at a sufficient level, then I can extend this help to others, so that in that process, I'm also helping myself, right? Because I'm also learning so much more about the ways that I could be a better person through observing how other people are improving their lives and are just ultimately inherently really, really amazing people. So a huge shout out to everyone, you know, in the community. Again, love you guys so much. Thank you guys for being on this journey. Again, if you've been a part of our Sunday Council meetings, you probably know a lot of these stories already. But if you stayed till the end and listen to this, I really appreciate you, and you specifically. Thank you so much for listening and being a part. I hope you'll be more of a part in the community in whichever way you desire, and I hope that we can be more helpful for you as time goes on, and we can support you in the ways that we know how, and support you in the ways that you need it the most. So that's it for me. Thank you guys so much. You can expect consistency again starting next week. Every week we're going to try to get going at I believe it's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern. I need to double check that, but just stay subscribed, hit the notification button, and I'm sure you will be the first to know when we go live. So thank you guys so much. If you guys just came in near the end, hope you go back and watch the whole thing. It's a nice ride, I guarantee it. Take care, guys. Bye bye.